Say sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So, dear Dharma practitioners, most of you heard when the people vaccinated, there are some people got the fever and some kind of tiredness, many kind of reactions. So even myself, I had some implant and after vaccination. So what happened? It rejected that implant. So, but still, it going to bring us some kind of protection. And when it come to the mind also same. When you start to practice meditation, or once you start to walk in this path, and in the beginning, sometimes you feel kind of like a turbulence, and unbalance. It's kind of like a deeply unrest. Even every day when we start to practice meditation, suddenly in the beginning, a few minutes, that turbulence can happen. Why? Because that is the very nature. When we transform one nature to another nature, and there is some unbalance happening in the moment, and sometimes it brings us irritation, disconnection, dissatisfaction, disappointment. So kind of like that, discomfort, but still you have to accept it and knowingly that it's going to bring something good after that. So then every day when you practice yourself, rather than focusing to whatever the turbulence or the discomfort arise with the practice, and always remember to keep continue in a certain level, it's going to disappear. But that is very normal. And in a larger view, and even our whole life, when we transform tranquility state to eternal moment, and when you transform your ordinary life to higher level, and that way also that turbulence can happen. It may come to you in a different ways. But once you know the path, don't afraid for the samsara. Samsara itself, not something that you are here, it is there and it come towards you and you fighting with it. It's not something like that. This all your head to toes, everything is samsara. There's no beginning or end, it's just happening. In this happening, don't afraid for that. Only thing is learn the right things. Especially the Eightfold Path. And these all the teachings related to that. And once you know the right things, practice yourself. Once you hold it to the right things, you no need to afraid for the samsara. And it is not a kind of like, oh, the samsara is suffering, this is so dangerous, so kind of like, and I have to get out of this as soon as, it's not like that. How you can get out from you? It is deeply you have to understand, because if you have that kind of resistance regarding your own nature, what will happen? So then you have to calm down and accept, and at the same time you have to be wise not to hold it to, not to grudge, not to harbor to any kind of feelings. So through the meditation, it develops your understanding to see. So as you know, when it comes to the vipassana, it's an analytical meditation, deeply seeing in, it's called another way, inside meditation. What is this seeing mean? So this is what, that there is something happening in the outside, in the material world, and it comes to you, and once it comes to you, it brings the feelings. Once you have the feelings, otherwise if you don't have the feelings, whatever happens there, it happens. It's not belong to you. How many things happening around us? But once it brings the feeling, you recognize it. So that recognition inside brings the interpretation. So that interpretation take you to react. There's something happening and it brings the feelings, and then the recognized interpreter that the whatever happening, and that interpretation bring the reaction. So this whole process, understanding this whole process, we mean as seeing. So in the beginning, you have to understand it. That's why we learn like this. And then recognize, that means through practice, you have to see yourself. So once the whole process, once you experience yourself, and that experience we call seeing. Seeing that inside what is happening. When the perception arises, that how it become experience yourself. So that is what through the meditation we develop inside us. When you develop this, what happening to you? If you don't recognize this, you are kind of like just a coconut, fell down from a tree. There's no wind. There's no way in the middle it can hold. So if then, when somebody go that picking coconut, that whoever around the tree, under the tree, they go away from it. Why? Maybe it can fall down to your head. So the coconut itself cannot stop on the way once it released from the tree. There's no way that it can stop in the middle. So our life also, like, if you don't know this understanding, there's no way in the middle that you can come to a recognition, or you can come to a kind of like understanding. That journey itself we call as suffering, dangerous, because in that very next moment you have no choice what will happen. You have no idea where it's going to fall down. So, and recognizing this, understanding this, learning this is kind of like you getting feathers, like a bird getting feathers. Once the bird, just imagine, once the bird have the feathers, sky anymore is not a problem. The bird not going to afraid for the sky. Even it sit on a branch, it not depending on branch because it has feathers. It doesn't matter how unlimited the sky. The bird doesn't care about it. So recognizing this path, understanding, practice yourself, samatha vipassana and loving kindness meditation, It's kind of like rather than becoming a coconut, you become like a bird having feathers, wings. So then you don't afraid. It doesn't matter how big the sky. It doesn't matter to you. You don't focus to that because you know how to deal with it. Then the sky itself becomes the home to you. So then once you have the understanding, the light itself becomes a bliss. See, when you don't have the understanding, life itself becomes suffering, fearful, and always unsatisfaction. But once you gain the understanding, the same life becomes a bliss. When the coconut doesn't have the feathers or the wings to hold the air, you know, it is in danger. Don't know where it's going to fall down. And it go through the empty space. But once the bird have the feather, the same space become home. See that, recognize the transformation. This is what happening when you learn, when you practice yourself. Once you have the self realization within yourself, deeper this method or the system. So if you don't have this in day-to-day life, in a larger scale, what will happen? So this called vipallasa, hallucination, perversion, distortion. So the perversion or the distortion, that there is something originally happened, but when it come to you, it polluted. It is not in original form. It's become something else. And the hallucination, the perception of having seen, heard, touched, taste, or smell something that wasn't actually there. So whatever with your eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, what you experience as perception, it is not actually whatever happened in the outside. See, in the beginning, I gave you a formula: happening, feeling, perception, or the interpretation, and the recognition, reactions. So the interpretation or the recognition. So the vipallasa means flip, or the hallucination, or the perversion, distortion. So that means there is something happens through the feelings it came to you, but the recognition or the interpretation happens in your mind is totally different than the original event. So this is what called vipallasa. So the hallucination, you know, when people get the high fever, some disease, and people experience this hallucination. Even a lot of people, this word, people, a lot of people used to talk during this Corona time sometimes, because once they get that, they have this hallucination. They start to feel something different. And sometimes even in hospitals, I have seen that even the doctors, the nurse, children, sometimes, you know, that when this hallucination, once they have that, the patient experience something like the doctor come to kill them. And even when we go and try to pray them, and they think like the enemies or the demons. See, it's flipping the whatever the original event. So like that in our life through the samsara, this hallucination happens. There are three kinds of vipallasa. One is called sanya vipallasa. That means the perception, hallucination of perception. And chitta vipallasa, hallucination of thoughts. And the ditti vipallasa, hallucination of views. So those are the three vipallasas. Hallucination of perception, hallucination of thoughts, hallucination of views. And it can appear in four ways. It play the game in your life in four ways. What is that? What is that the flip or the hallucination happens? What is the misunderstanding happening inside us? This is the one thing. The impermanent things we take as permanent. Okay? There's whatever the impermanent event happen outside world, through the feelings when it come to us, we recognize and we interpret that whatever the events or whatever happened as a permanent. So impermanent things we take as permanent. So that is one hallucination that happened with this all the sanya or the perception, thoughts and the views. And the second one is the impurity. So whatever the impure, and when it come to us through the feelings or the views or the thoughts or the perception, we interpret it as purity. Impermanent, we take it as permanent. Impurity, we interpret it as purity. And the third one, so whatever the suffering, the suffering here means not the pain. The suffering here means this unsatisfaction, because it's always change. There's no place to hold or anything. It always takes you to something else. So whatever you become happy, it is not going to period or the end, stop. It always going to take you to something else. Look yourself, whatever the happiness you name, you will see that. You don't need any Oxford mindful dictionary to understand. Look yourself, your life, you will see whatever the happiness that you thought as a happiness, and you go there and take it, and then you will see right away it takes you to another step, which you have no power. It's like you are kind of like the coconut released from the tree. You have no idea where it's going to fail. So like that, the suffering we interpret as, we recognize as happiness or the joy or the satisfaction. So that is the third one. The fourth one, the fourth hallucination is the no self. We interpret as self. There is no, the soul, permanent, concrete, unchangeable, soul inside us or anywhere, but still we interpret it as permanent soul. Out of that interpretation, and we bring the reactions, believing something is there. So those are the four hallucinations happen around us because of this misunderstanding. So for that, there are few examples that why this happened to us like this way, because mostly we follow just the words. Whatever we heard, we go with that. So that's why we develop the art to see. So seeing by yourself, not because somebody else told you. You come to a point, drop all the ideas about yourself or the ideas about other things, and you simply just you observe, see. Then you will recognize what is happening there. That recognition itself educates you, not the book or not the school or not the teacher or not the society, not the parents or like that. That is very necessary in conventional life. But we go towards something else. So then it's like this. There was a farmer. He used to adopt a monkey. And you know, in the Eastern countries, and people use these wild animals for their day-to-day activities. And even the snakes, the monkeys. You know? And so this farmer used to train the monkey to help him and bring the water and watering his farm. And then what happened, one day he had to go to another place. And he told monkey, remember, and he planted kind of like the beans. And then the very, new plants there. And the farmer told to the monkey, remember to put enough water, and no, it goes to the roots. Just put the water until it goes to the roots. So the monkey told, okay, I will do that. And the farmer went and the monkey started to water. Now the monkey need to make sure the water went to the roots. So what the monkey did, start to pull the, uproot all the trees and start to look, oh, it got water and then put back. So we the same. Why? Because whatever we heard, we go with that. We have no idea what it is. We go with the mostly that the sound, meaning of sound sometimes when it comes to words. And we cannot go beyond the words sometimes. And it's becoming, more and more complicated, especially when it comes to the English language. So recently I was listening to this one of the audio book regarding Dharma, and it explained about the karma. and the karma, that the Karma. So then this whoever that read that in English, mostly they drop the R. It's making kind of like make it silence. So the karma, and he read like karma. So the karma is a big, the huge word that explaining about the action, reaction, result, and this relationships. But in that book, he again and again say this word, karma. So the karma is a kind of like this lustful desire to find the satisfaction with your inner feelings, especially with the sexual feelings. See, that I was thinking, whoever that's a newcomer, if he listen to this and just follow the word, then what will happen? What he learn? So it happened to us also in many ways. Already it happened to us. But when you practice the meditation, what will happen? When you deeply practice meditation, your mind able to filter this, all the mistakes, whatever happening around us. So then rather than depending on words or the books or the sutras or the interpretations, and your mind start to tune or the catch certain wisdom. So that's why this practice is very important. And that's how it get you out of the vipallasa. And this vipallasa is kind of like this. Then there is a deer come to eat the farming, and then what the farmer does, and it take little piece of wood, few woods, and make a image kind of like the man with the bow and arrow, and it put in the middle of the paddy field. So when the very next day, when the deers come to eat the farm, and it see, oh, there is a man, and they run. So see that deer, so that the image is not a human. So the same thing does with the vipallasa. Oh, this hallucination happens to us. And at the same time, this magician, they make many kind of hallucinations, magic, the same thing. And whoever see it, it look like real. And sometimes, the people whoever look for gems, and if you don't know the knowledge about the gems, sometimes, so whatever the shiny piece of rock, if you find, you may think, oh, this is a gem, maybe. And then you protect it, you love it. You may keep it, hiding somewhere. You don't tell to everybody. So then later you take it to someone. Or maybe gem cutter, and that person says, this is not a gem. And then, so in the beginning, the idea about that, you thought, oh, this is a gem. So like that we also, that lot of these changeable things hold in our life, believing it is unchanged. And a lot of impurity things hold, we thinking it is purified. And a lot of impermanent things we hold in life, thinking it is permanent. And this unsoul, this no soul experience, we believe this is me, unchangeable me. And we look for eternal or the immortal experience or the existence. So then we have to remember that you are in hallucination. We are in this hallucination. So then while you practice, what happened? You become like a potter. Look at this dirty, dusty, muddy, mud, this dust. The potter can transform it to maybe a plate, cup, pot, so anything. You become like that. This dusty, this muddy perception, you transform. You don't throw it away. You don't resist it. You don't going to fight with it. You don't hate it. You transform it. So look at the dusty, muddy, things sometimes. You cannot touch it, or maybe you cannot put anywhere. But how about you? You do the pottery and you make it a nice cup, and then you put the art on it, and then you make it beautiful. And everywhere, even the recently I saw this one of the, the five-star hotel, most expensive, you know, things, and this handmade, all the items, the clay items, handmade. One of the potter did that. And see that the same mud can, can become the dust, and the people reject it, people hate it, people don't like it. But how when it transforms? So you have the same. That is the beauty of Dharma. So anybody can access to that. So it is your choice. So then we don't know about tomorrow. We don't know where we'll end this and how it's going to happen. It is okay. Let it be. But only thing is, don't be like a coconut, fell down from the tree, helpless, and don't know where it's going to go. Be like the bird, having the feathers. Be like the potter, can transform the mud to any kind of pottery or any kind of valuable thing. So that transformation itself bring the clarity to yourself. Go through this all. That clarity, when you have that clarity itself, you unclutch, detach, let go, leave the harboring, this all the perception that whatever you used to believing or holding, grasping, thinking it is permanent, it is purity, it is happy, and it has a soul. So naturally you're going to release that. So that release itself and bring the whatever the untruth that you hold, it release and it slowly take you towards the truth. So the hallucination is the whatever the truth happening, you see it as fault. So whatever the fault happening, you see it as truth. But when you are able to develop the art of seeing through this meditation, observation, recognition, what will happen? You are able to see the truth as truth, fault as fault. When the day you are able to see that, that is the day you're going to experience your liberation, your transformation, the ultimate bliss of Nibbana. So with that, I bless upon everyone with this good practice. May all of you be well, happy and peaceful. May no harm come to you. May no difficulties come to you. May no problems come to you. May you also have the patience, courage, understanding, and determination to meet and overcome inevitable difficulties in your life. During this time period, may everyone stay healthy and safe. And finally, may all of you attain supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sabbityo vajjantu sabbarogo vinasatu mate bhavatantarayo sukhi dīgāyito bhava. Ittavata ca sampadam punya sampadam sabbe devanumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya sabbe bhutanumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya sabbe sattanumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya idamme punya kammang asavattaya vaham hotu sabba dukkha pamuncatu. Yes.